Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be covering the settings tab and the layers tab because those two kind of work together inside of XLDraw version 5. If you have not watched the previous videos in our training on XLDraw version 5, go back and watch those because everything kind of builds on top of one another. So yes, in this video, we're going to be starting off over here with the graph settings, and this is pretty straightforward. Now, I mentioned before in the previous videos that XLDraw is completely customizable to whatever you would like it to be, and part of that customization is inside of the graph settings. So inside the graph settings, you see lots of different options. I'm going to go through every one of these so you can see what they do and how you can change it, things like that. The first thing that we're going to look at is called the chart name. Now this is actually the name of the graph itself. So in case you're referencing the graph in something else and maybe you are doing some VBA programming and you want to reference it, you can change this name to whatever you want it to be, and that's going to be the name of the graph or the default graphs that you make for XLDraw. And all of the graphs are going to be sharing this name. It just depends on the sheet that they are on. Now from here down, the formats, you notice that we have point, line, rectangle, circle, text, those formats right here. And all the objects that we make inside of XLDraw actually follow this format. So you can change this format to whatever you want. Typically, it's in the default XYZ1, XYZ2 formation. But if you select this down, you see that there's every single possible combination that you can think of with the XYZ format. This will stay fluent throughout the entire workbook, so whenever you do change this, you're going to effectively change it for every object that you've created moving forward. Next, if you would like to ever change the color of something, color was originally put into XLDraw based on shapes to distinguish between different shapes, what they were, and easily recognize them. Whenever XLDraw moved into the third dimension and you were able to rotate it and things like that, and layers started being added in, the color scheme needed to change, so we changed it from based on just strictly objects to also based on layers. And how you change the colors of a layer is you link it to the color of an object. And let me explain. So if you notice right here, it says change colors for line, rectangle, all that stuff. If we select line, that's going to be our very first one, and click change, you're going to be greeted with this window right here. And as you can see, the line that we have in the background is that color. I can change this to whatever color I want. So let's say that instead of that, I want my lines to be gray. And then all I do is hit change. And now my lines are gray. This also affects the layers, which I will get to in a minute. But just for now, know that that is how you can change the colors of an object. Next is line size, and this is something that is referenced in other areas too, such as the graph orientation. You can change the line size there. There's a couple areas where you can do this, but this, whenever you select whatever line size you want, it will automatically change the line size that XLDraw is graphing. The number format, if you are going to be handling numbers inside of XLDraw, which pretty much everything is, this is going to be the structure of the number format, and it is automatically set to, I believe that is 5 decimal places. Yes, it's set to have 5 decimal places. Now you can adjust this to whatever you want. It will automatically round it to whatever you need it to be at, or whatever you have it set to. And finally is the text size. Now text size, this will not affect anything inside of XLDraw visually, but it will change how things look whenever you export them into AutoCAD. Now the reason why it won't affect anything in XLDraw is because the text that we see here is just a label. Please know that we do work inside the limitations of Excel. We have pretty much pushed the boundaries on what it is doing, and every update we push it a little bit further. We are working on implementing text just like AutoCAD would have it, but like I said, there are some limitations that we have to accommodate for inside of Excel. Okay, so that was all of the preset settings. Now, if you wanted to change the layer settings, which I will show you this right here, it is inside the graph settings options. You can also access it by going right here to the name. Click on that. But if you open this window up, you will be greeted with another window right here. And this changes your layer names. And like I said, you can access the same thing by clicking on names right up here. And there's two sets of names for your layers that you can have. The first set is the default names, and these are the default names every time ExcelDraw creates a new drawing. It will use these default names. These names are the ones that are preset on your computer. They are localized. They will stay with your computer. Now, if you change the names over here, these are the worksheet layer names. So this is the current worksheet that you are working on. And like I said, every time you make a new sheet or a new drawing, it will automatically transfer the default names over to the worksheet names. But you can change these names to whatever you want them to be. So for instance, if I want to change layer 0's name to, I'm just going to change it to the actual word 0 and hit save. If I go down through here, select layer 0 right there, you can actually see that the name changed to layer 0. So yes, that is how you can change names for each one of your layers if you need to. These names will save with the workbook. So if you save this workbook and say you transfer it to somebody else that you're working with and they bring it up, it will have that layer being called that name. Next, I'm going to be looking at the styles. Now, by default, ExcelDraw is set to a light style, and there are three different options for styling. You have a classic style, light style, and dark style. Now, the classic style is a very simple, classic-looking ExcelDraw VBA window, which looks, let me load this up, looks similar to this. Something that I want to point out is whenever you're using the classic style, it does load quicker. However, there's no way to click on anything in the background. So that's why I personally like to use the light, because light looks very similar to the original. It's just, it will also allow you to do other things like click on stuff in the background, select, draw other objects. You can have these brought up and still interact with whatever's going on behind it. This is what the light version looks like, and if you would like to change this to a dark version, I'll show you what that looks like as well. And this is what the dark version looks like. You also have the option to match the style to the graph or match the graph to the style. And that is handled right over here in the extras section. It used to be handled in the settings section next to the style, but due to organization, we had to move it. But yes, if you select graph match style, you will actually see that the graph that you are creating will match whatever style that you have selected. So it will actually change the background color for you. This is something that I did kind of cover in the previous videos. And this is the relative value settings and the Z enabled settings. So with the relative value settings, ExcelDraw does have the ability to specify if it is relative or absolute values. Absolute values is what we have been using right here, where it basically says it is going from this absolute point to this absolute point, and that is it. Those are the exact dimensions where we are going. For instance, if I wanted a rectangle that was a total of 5 units wide, I could start it at 5 and I could go to 10. That is absolute values. Relative values, on the other hand, is relative to one another. So that means for the same square, I would have it set to 5 and I would need it to go 5. So I would set it 5 and then the next number would be 5 because I want it to extend that direction by 5. That is relative values. By default, ExcelDraw is set up to not have relative values selected. It is set to automatically have absolute values, but in case you work in relative values, you can enable that. And the same thing goes with Z values. By default, ExcelDraw does not have Z values enabled, but if you prefer to have Z values, then you would need to toggle this on in order to use Z values. The next things that we're going over in this video is going to be the layers. And like I said, I previously covered this one before, where if you click on the name of the layers, you can bring up the layer names, change them there. It's a quick little access for you. The next thing that I want to look at is the layer colors. And I told you that XLDraw was originally made to specify colors based on objects. Well, whenever we incorporated layers into this, we since also incorporated the colors of the objects per the layer number. So for instance, by default, layer 0 is going to be the same color as the color for a line. If you drop down and select any of the other layers, for instance, layer 4 is the default color for an arc. You can change these colors right here by going to adjust colors, and it can bring up the color for an arc, which is right here. And then you can change that as you need. So, like I said, this is, it's kind of a workaround because we couldn't really incorporate both at the same time with the structure that we had in place. So what we did instead was have layers being based on the object color. So you can have different colors for every layer. I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can show colors based on layers, and it's very simple. All you have to do is go right here to layer coloring, and if you select that, you can see that now all of our objects are based on whatever layer they're on. So if I only want to show one layer, I just want to show layer 0, I can select this, only show selected layer, and I will only show the selected layer. Drop that down to layer 1, layer 2, 3, and I don't think we have anything on layer 4. No, we don't. Okay, so those are all of our layers that we currently have. Okay, thank you all very much for watching. If you have any questions for me, please leave a comment down below. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. In the next video, I'm going to be covering a few more of the settings inside of XLDraw version 5. Thank you all very much. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of Great Tech videos and releases. Thank you all very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.